He hired a private investigator, a discreet but highly recommended professional known only as Mizi. Mizi's reports confirmed his worst fears. Amani was indeed frequenting that address. The photos that accompanied Mizi's dispatches were a cruel blow. Amani, his beautiful Amani, laughing, embracing, and walking hand in hand with a younger man. The man was strikingly handsome, with a youthful energy that Jide, despite his success, knew he could no longer truly embody. The investigator's final report contained the most devastating revelation. Not only was Amani having an affair, but she was also financially supporting her lover. The equatorial sun beat down on the sprawling cityscape of Nairobi, casting long, shifting shadows from the towering glass and steel structures that pierced the vibrant Kenyan sky. Inside one such edifice, a testament to modern ambition and the lucrative oil industry, Jide labored. He was a man forged in the fires of dedication, his hands calloused from years of relentless work, his mind sharp from navigating the intricate world of petroleum logistics. Jide wasn't just working, he was building an empire, brick by arduous brick, fueled by a dream of stability and a comfortable future. His days were a blur of meetings, site visits, and complex calculations, often stretching late into the night, leaving him little time for anything beyond his demanding career. Years melted into a decade, each one adding to Jide's substantial wealth and reputation. He had cars, a sprawling house in Karen, and investments that hummed quietly in the background, generating more prosperity. Yet, a void remained, a quiet longing for companionship, for a family to share his successes with. It was at a distant cousin's wedding, a vibrant explosion of color, music, and laughter in the heart of Limeru, that he first saw her. Amani. She was one of the Ashubi girls, her figure draped in an exquisite emerald green lace, her smile a beacon that seemed to cut through the joyous chaos of the celebration. Her eyes, the color of rich Kenyan coffee, held a warmth that instantly captivated him. He approached her with a quiet confidence that belied his usual reserved nature. Their initial conversation flowed effortlessly, a dance of shared laughter and discovering common ground. He learned she was a school teacher, passionate about nurturing young minds. She, in turn, was intrigued by his quiet strength and the subtle hints of a deeply dedicated man. Their courtship was a whirlwind, intensified by Jida's limited free time. Dates were meticulously planned around his demanding schedule, often late-night dinners or stolen weekend hours. Yet, in those precious moments, their connection deepened, blooming into a love that felt both destined and deeply real. Within a few months, under a sky ablaze with a million stars, Jide proposed, and Amani, her eyes shimmering with tears of joy, accepted. Their wedding was a grand affair, a fusion of traditional Kikuyu customs and modern elegance. The entire community celebrated their union, and their new life together began in the opulent house Jide had meticulously furnished. He showered Amani with every comfort imaginable: a sleek new SUV, a fully staffed household, and a generous monthly allowance that ensured her every need was met. Their home became a sanctuary, a haven of peace and burgeoning love. The rhythm of their early marriage settled into a comfortable routine. Jide, ever the provider, continued his relentless work. He was often away, sometimes for weeks at a time, managing new oil fields or overseeing complex international partnerships. But his absences were always punctuated by his return, a period of unwavering devotion to Amani. He would set aside all work, all distractions, focusing solely on her, making up for lost time with romantic dinners, thoughtful gifts, and long, intimate conversations. Amani, in turn, seemed to thrive in their life, managing their home with grace and always greeting him with an infectious warmth that melted away the stresses of his demanding career. Their happiness reached new heights with the news of Amani's pregnancy. Jide was overjoyed, meticulously preparing for the arrival of their first child. The day their son, Kian, was born, Jide felt a love he hadn't known was possible. Kian was a bright, curious boy, loved by everyone who met him. 2 years later, their family was complete with the arrival of their daughter, Niare, a sweet and gentle girl who brought even more laughter and light into their home. As Kian and Niara grew, the house buzzed with the joyful chaos of childhood. They began attending a prestigious international school, their futures carefully mapped out by Jide. Life, it seemed, was an unblemished canvas of prosperity and familial bliss. But subtle shifts began to ripple through their idyllic existence. Jide, keenly observant even amidst his busy schedule, started to notice a change in Amani. When he returned home, the effervescent warmth he had always cherished was sometimes replaced by a subtle coolness, a distant air. Her usual eagerness to recount her day, the small anecdotes about the children, or her charitable endeavors seemed to wane. She was often preoccupied, her phone a constant companion, its screen glowing in the dim light of the evenings. A gnawing suspicion began to take root in Jide's heart. He dismissed it at first, attributing it to stress, or perhaps just the natural evolution of a long-term relationship. But the feeling persisted, a persistent whisper that grew louder with each passing day. He noticed her making hushed phone calls, often stepping out of the room, her voice a low murmur. Once he overheard her mention a name he didn't recognize, followed by a hurried click as she ended the call when she realized he was nearby. One evening, unable to shake the disquieting feeling, Jide's pragmatic nature kicked in. He was a man of action, of evidence. He decided to employ the same meticulous planning he used in his business to address his growing concern. He had installed a sophisticated tracker on Amani's car years ago, a safety measure he had insisted upon, given the occasional security concerns in Nairobi. He activated it, a cold dread settling in his stomach as he watched her movements. The tracker revealed a pattern that sent a chill down his spine. Her car, instead of following its usual routes to school, the market, or her occasional charity meetings, was frequently parked at a residential address in a less affluent part of town, an area completely unrelated to any of her known activities. And the timings were always when he was away or when he was at work. He delved deeper. He hired a private investigator, a discreet but highly recommended professional known only as Mizi. Mizi's reports confirmed his worst fears. Amani was indeed frequenting that address. The photos that accompanied Mizi's dispatches were a cruel blow. Amani, his beautiful Amani, laughing, embracing, and walking hand in hand with a younger man. The man was strikingly handsome, with a youthful energy that Jide, despite his success, knew he could no longer truly embody. The investigator's final report contained the most devastating revelation. Not only was Amani having an affair, but she was also financially supporting her lover. The money Jide so generously provided for her upkeep, for the children's needs, for her own leisurely pursuits, was being siphoned off and handed over to this man. He saw bank statements, meticulously documented by Mz, showing large transfers from Amani's personal account, an account he funded, to an unknown recipient. The pieces clicked into place. The strange calls, her distracted demeanor, the evasiveness. Jide Jide felt a visceral shock, a physical pain that rivaled any he had ever experienced. His world, built on trust, love, and unwavering devotion, crumbled around him. His heart, once overflowing with affection for Amani, felt like a hollowed-out shell, filled only with a bitter, icy emptiness. He didn't confront her. The thought of it, of listening to her lies, of witnessing her feigned innocence, was unbearable. Instead, a different emotion began to simmer beneath the surface of his grief. Revenge. A cold, calculated, and utterly devastating revenge. He spent weeks meticulously gathering evidence, not just for a divorce, but for something far more absolute. He compiled the private investigators' reports, the damning photographs, the bank statements. He even installed hidden cameras in a discreet location within their home, capturing hushed phone calls and fleeting moments of Amani's interactions that confirmed her duplicity. He downloaded all the data from the car tracker. Every piece of evidence was filed, catalogued, and secured. His children, Kian and Nyara, were his anchors in this storm of betrayal. He loved them fiercely, and the thought of their mother's actions impacting them filled him with a potent mixture of rage and protectiveness. He knew he had to handle this delicately, carefully, to protect them from the fallout. He wanted them to understand, to see the truth, and to make their own choices. One quiet evening, when the children were old enough to comprehend, Jide sat them down. His voice, usually firm and authoritative, was laced with a profound sadness that caught their attention. He began by explaining, in simple, age-appropriate terms, that sometimes adults make very serious mistakes that hurt the people they love. Then, with a heavy heart, he showed them the compiled evidence. He didn't sensationalize it. He simply presented the facts, the pictures, the movements of the car, and finally, a carefully chosen clip of Amani on the phone, her voice dripping with affection as she spoke to her lover, discussing the money she was about to transfer. Kian, at 10, understood more than Jide anticipated. His young face contorted with confusion, then hurt, then a dawning anger. Nyara, 8, initially looked bewildered, but as her brother's reaction registered, a similar sadness clouded her innocent eyes. Jide watched, his heart aching, as their perception of their mother shattered before his very eyes. The betrayal wasn't just his, it was theirs too. The children's reactions were immediate and profound. Kian, ever protective of his father, felt a fierce sense of betrayal. He saw his strong, hard-working father reduced to a shadow of his former self by his mother's deceit. Nyaha, though younger, absorbed the pain and anger radiating from her father and brother. Their love for their mother, once absolute, now fractured, replaced by a deep resentment. They felt misled, their trust broken. The divorce proceedings began swiftly, a blur of legal documents and court appearances. Jide's legal team, a formidable group of top-tier lawyers, presented an unassailable case. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, photographic evidence, and the damning testimony of the private investigator. Amani, initially defiant, quickly realized the depth of the trap she had walked into. She tried to deny, to deflect, to portray herself as the wronged party, but each attempt was met with irrefutable proof. The most shocking moment came when the children were called to testify. Jide had discussed it with them, explaining the gravity of the situation and giving them the option to speak their truth. To his profound relief and Amani's utter horror, they agreed. Kian, composed beyond his years, calmly recounted how his mother had become distant, how she spent endless hours on her phone, and how he had seen her sneaking out of the house. Nyara, quieter, bravely spoke of her mother's changed demeanor, of feeling less loved and attended to. Then, Jide's lawyers presented the final, devastating blow, the clip he had shown them. It was a brief but powerful piece of evidence, showing Amani engaged in a clandestine phone call, her words of affection for another man echoing through the quiet courtroom. The children's testimony, combined with the irrefutable evidence, sealed Amani's fate. The judge, clearly moved by the children's pain and the depth of the betrayal, ruled decisively in Jide's favor. Not only was the divorce granted, but Amani was also denied any financial settlement. The court ruled that due to her egregious infidelity and financial misappropriation, she had forfeited any claim to Jide's assets. The most crushing blow for Amani, however, was the custody ruling. The judge, taking into account the children's testimony and their expressed desire to stay with their father, granted Jide full custody of Kian and Nyara. Amani, stripped of her husband, her wealth, and now her children, was left with nothing. The dreams of child support, of maintaining a semblance of her former life, vanished into thin air. The court order was stark. Amani was to vacate the marital home immediately and was to receive no financial support from Jide. The judge, in a stern address, advised her to seek accommodation with her newfound companion. The cruel irony of it all was not lost on Jide. Her lover, Ken, was none other than her ex-boyfriend from before her marriage, a relationship she had evidently never truly severed. Their secret dalliance had continued, festering beneath the surface of her supposedly happy marriage for years. Amani fought, of course. She appealed, she raged, she threatened, but the evidence against her was a mountain, insurmountable and unyielding. Each legal maneuver she attempted was swiftly countered by Jide's relentless team, who presented even more damning details, solidifying her downfall. One cold grey morning, Amani packed a single suitcase. Her face was gaunt, her eyes hollow, stripped of the vibrant confidence Jide had once loved. She walked out of the sprawling house, the servants who had once catered to her every whim now avoiding her gaze. Kian and Nyara watched from an upstairs window, their small faces devoid of emotion, a chilling reflection of their father's quiet resolve. Amani looked up, her gaze desperately searching for a flicker of their affection, a hint of regret. But there was nothing, only the cold, hard reality of their betrayal. She stepped into a waiting taxi, leaving behind the life of luxury, the children she had once claimed to love, and the man she had so cruelly wronged. Her destination was the modest, shared apartment of Ken, the man for whom she had sacrificed everything. The revenge was complete. Jide, though still bearing the scars of his broken heart, had emerged from the ashes, his children by his side, his dignity restored, and a quiet sense of justice finally served. The once bright tapestry of his life had been torn, but he was now meticulously weaving a new one, stronger and wiser, with the unwavering love of his children as the enduring thread. The sting of betrayal lingered, a constant reminder, but so too did the quiet satisfaction of a battle fought and won, not with violence, but with truth and unyielding resolve. The silence in the opulent house after Amani's departure was almost deafening. It was a hollow quiet, punctuated only by the distant laughter of Kian and Nyara playing, the innocent joy a stark contrast to the lingering pain in Jide's heart. He was a survivor, a man who had built an empire from sheer will, but the emotional toll of the betrayal had left him bruised and weary. His focus, however, remained steadfastly on his children. He dedicated himself to their healing, ensuring their lives retained a sense of normalcy amidst the wreckage of his marriage. He was present, truly present, in a way his demanding career had rarely allowed before. It was during this challenging period that Zawadi emerged as a beacon of unwavering support. Zawadi was Amani's childhood friend, a woman Jide had known casually through their social circles. Unlike many fair-weather friends who vanished in the face of scandal, Zawadi remained. She called, she visited, not out of pity, but with genuine concern. She brought home-cooked meals, spent hours talking to Kian and Niara, helping them navigate their confusion and sadness. She listened to Jide without judgment, offering a quiet strength that he hadn't realized he so desperately needed. Zawadi was a calming presence, her laughter a gentle balm, her practicality a grounding force. She would often pick up the children from school when Jide was held up, ensuring they had their favorite snacks and helping them with their homework. She organized playdates, comforted them during their moments of missing their mother, and filled the void that Amani had left with a quiet, consistent love. Jide watched her, captivated by her genuine warmth and her effortless way with his children. She didn't try to replace Amani. She simply and beautifully filled the space that needed filling. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, a different kind of affection began to blossom between Jide and Zawadi. It wasn't the fiery, passionate love he had felt for Amani, but something deeper, more rooted in respect, shared values, and profound gratitude. Zawadi saw Jide not just as the successful businessman, but as a man who had been deeply hurt, a devoted father striving to protect his children. Jide, in turn, saw Zawadi's true character, her kindness, her unwavering loyalty, and her quiet strength. Months turned into a year, and the children had grown immensely fond of Zawadi, often seeking her out for comfort and laughter. Kian, ever the perceptive one, subtly nudged his father, hinting at the joy Zawadi brought into their lives. Niara, with her childlike innocence, simply adored her. Jide realized that he was not just falling in love, but also finding a partner who understood the complex fabric of his life, a woman who already loved his children as her own. Their wedding was a quiet, intimate affair, a stark contrast to the grand spectacle of his first marriage. It was a celebration of new beginnings, witnessed by close friends and family, and most importantly, by Kian and Niara, whose smiles were brighter than Jide had seen in years. Zawadi seamlessly integrated into their lives, bringing a renewed sense of peace and stability to the household. The children thrived under her care, blossoming into confident, happy individuals. Within a few years, their family expanded. Zawadi gave birth to 2 more children, a boisterous boy named Kofi, and a sweet, inquisitive girl named Zola. The house that had once felt so painfully empty now vibrated with the joyous energy of 4 children. Kian and Niara embraced their younger siblings with enthusiasm, taking on the roles of protective older brother and nurturing older sister. Jide, surrounded by the laughter and love of his expanded family, felt a profound sense of contentment he hadn't thought possible. He had found not just a wife, but a true partner, a co-parent, and a friend who had weathered the storm with him and helped him rebuild. Meanwhile, Amani's reality was a stark, cruel counterpoint to Jide's newfound happiness. She had run off with Ken, confident that their illicit love would sustain them. For a brief period, the thrill of their freedom and the absence of Jide's watchful eye seemed exhilarating. They lived in a modest apartment, and Ken, despite his youthful charm, was far from the provider Jide had been. The generous funds Amani had siphoned off quickly dwindled, The initial infatuation began to wear thin as the harsh realities of their financial situation set in. Ken, reliant on Amani's dwindling resources, grew increasingly frustrated and demanding. The money she had once provided so freely was gone, and her attempts to maintain a semblance of a former lifestyle were met with his growing resentment. He was used to being supported, not to providing. The luxurious cars, the designer clothes, the endless upkeep money, all of it was a distant memory. Amani found herself struggling, unable to adapt to a life without the opulence she had grown accustomed to. The love she had felt for Ken, fueled by rebellion and excitement, began to curdle into resentment and regret. She missed the security, the comfort, the effortless existence Jide had provided. Most acutely, she missed her children. The occasional, brief, supervised visits the court had reluctantly allowed were cold and formal, devoid of the warmth and affection she craved. Kian and Nyara, deeply hurt by her actions and fiercely loyal to their father and Zawadi, met her with a chilling indifference. They saw her as the woman who had broken their family, who had chosen a fleeting affair over their well-being. Amani's life with Ken descended into a cycle of arguments, financial strain, and profound dissatisfaction. The man she had sacrificed everything for was proving to be a shallow, self-centered individual, incapable of offering the stability or the deep emotional connection she had truly craved. She was trapped, living a meager existence, stripped of her pride, her wealth, and her children, a prisoner of her own reckless choices. The once bright promise of freedom had turned into a bitter, inescapable cage. The revenge, meticulously planned and executed by Jide, was complete, and its quiet, devastating power continued to unfold in the stark contrast of their two very different lives.